Well, hello, my metaverse friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Live with Metamona. I'm your host, Metamona, and as always, here to bring you guys the most exciting updates in Web3, metaverse, crypto, and NFTs. And look who we have here. I have a very special guest joining us today. He is one of our very sought after Web3 gaming content creators. We call him Spike. So I'm so excited to have him introduce Web3 gaming to us today and share his invaluable insights. Spike, I am so excited you're here. Thank you for joining me.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. Thank you, Mona, for this amazing opportunity. Excited to talk about everything Web3 gaming and kind of breaking things down in a very understandable and relatable way. I know the technology is so amazing and expansive to gaming in general, but going down to the core root of what makes games fun is, it being very entertaining and enjoyable to watch. So, yeah, love to kind of come in and answer any questions you might have today. Super excited for the space again for having us on.
Of course, yes. I thought you would be a great person to break it down for us, and I'm finally actually excited. Let me back up to meet you. We were supposed to meet at Web3 Gaming Awards, and today I'm like, Wait a second, Spike, why weren't you there?" And you're like, "Mona, I was there. I was running around all day." I'm like, "What? How did I miss you?" That's where if you guys don't know or don't recall, that we had a Web3 Gaming Awards. I was presenting there. Apparently, Spike was running around running the show. And this was a huge show our friend Icy put on, and I didn't get to meet you. I'm so sorry about that.
Oh, it was amazing event. There was hundreds of people, so it's no surprise. But I'll meet you at the next one. I'm super excited to get to know you. I think you have amazing energy and a very beautiful spirit, and how engaged you are with your community. So super excited to be here, talk about what we really care about, games, and
Yeah.
how they're evolving.
I know he's not going to say this about himself, so let me say it. If you guys don't know Spike, he's one of our top content creators in the Web3 space. I know he might not, he's humble and say no, but he really is. He is a content machine, okay, guys? He educates the community, he advises Web3 brands, and I hear that you do it with a whole family and children. Is this right? You have kids, right?
Yeah, I guess it's very humble because I'm a young dad. I actually work full time Web 2. Web 3 is really passion for me. What really brings me and kind of brings my strengths into the space is just my as a community builder. I would say my content is good, but I still have some ways to go, just like how it is in the creative world. But what I'm most excited about Web 3 is how it empowers gamers and content creators and just builders in the space. It's not so much. It's not just the ownership of your in-game assets, but your time. You can work with your favorite brands and projects and provide value and be rewarded for that. So to me, that's what Web3 gaming in essence is: working together with the people you love to build amazing things, amazing projects, art, creativity.
Yeah, and I want to actually bring you back for another session to talk about content creation in Web3 because I think you somehow you tend to manage that really well and really put out valuable content out for our community, but that's going to be on another episode. You do currently put a lot of Web3 gaming content out there. I attend your spaces, and there's a ton of education that you do with the community, with the Web3 community on this topic. So today, for our new viewers, especially our mainstream audience, I want to ask you to run it back all the way to the basics and kind of educate us on Web3 gaming. What is it? How does it work? How is it different from traditional gaming? Where are the risks? Where's the value? And really, why should people care? Why should they pay attention? So, if you're up for this task, we can get started.
Let's do it. Yeah, I may have talked about Web3 games once or twice before, so I think I would consider myself an authority. So let's go for it.
Of course you are. Of course you are, and a great one too. You know what? The first time I think I heard about Web3 gaming, to be honest, was during COVID, when people started playing Axie Infinity to really provide financial support for their families because at the time there was no work. So this emergence paved the way, I feel like, for the play to earn model, what we call now in this space. But even that has since evolved, I think, in Web3 gaming. Talk to us about Web3 gaming. What is it? When did it all emerge?
Gotcha. So Web3 gaming predates even COVID. I think it was as far back as 2018. Our friends, Crypto Stash and Kagi, were definitely pioneers for early Web3 content. I just came in, right around COVID. I have an interesting story. I'll sidetrack for a bit, and it'll give some insights about myself. So I actually came in the weirdest way into Web3. I actually went through a natural disaster and I could no longer game on my expensive gaming PC. I was actually mining Bitcoin, and that was my first exposure to Web3. I then learned about NFTs during the craze. I was watching videos from like Gary Vee, and then I found out Axie. So that was actually my first take and jump into the space. What I saw is the use of decentralization and Web3 tech, where players were able to play a game and earn a cryptocurrency called SLP, and through that they could sell it. So that was the first time people had saw I can invest my time in a game and get value back. The space has since then
Mm,
matured a lot of bit, but there's a lot of there's a lot of different types of Web3 games. So you have some that people refer to as Web 2.5, where it's not fully tokenized. You can't earn a token to sell. There's a lot of difficulties with balancing those kind of economies. You have to like there has to be value generated and value extracted. So a lot of play to earns that were predated earlier in Web3 were all focused on tokens and earning. And we've seen the space emerge and really mature. So the focus has actually been away from the play to earn to more on what
yeah.
most people are calling play and earn. So rather than getting value for the time you invest playing games, it's owning your assets. So as a content creator, imagine I could spend thousands of dollars on in-game skins because I want to show off and make cool content. But if you're playing like a Valorant or Fortnite, I can't sell those skins. The top content creators may have $40,000 buying all the newest battle passes and everything else, but that value is trapped. It's there for the developer. Whereas the Web3 in your favorite games, let's say I'm making content, Web3 games and now enable true ownership. So you can sell those skins, and maybe you want to play another game, so you can sell those skins. And there is a heavy focus for a lot of players in the Web3 space to invest or do that kind of thing. I'm more of a traditional gamer. Like I buy what I want. I don't want the stress of seeing if my value of my assets go up or down. And that's there for those that want to do it. So in essence, Web3 gaming gives you true ownership of your assets. Whereas in Web2, real money trading, RMT, is not allowed. So like in Fortnite, if you sold your account because people wanted the skins, they might ban it. Whereas in Web3 and the ethos of that, you should be able to own the value you generate through your effort, through your content, through the assets you buy. So in essence, Web3 enables ownership, interoperability, which is where you can interact and do really cool things, and a lot of other cool features. So in essence, to me, Web3 gaming enables true ownership of assets, and it gives you value for the time you invest into these games.
When, and we're gonna go a little bit deeper on that because I want to ask you, how does this actually work with the blockchain and the smart contracts? But I also, when we talk about true ownership of asset, will you talk to us about what does that really mean? Because you touched on it, but what I'm asking is, when I own an asset, if somebody's going to spend money to buy an NFT within that game, what else can that asset NFT do for me? Can I do anything more with it? Or is it that I'm just buying and trading uh, PFPs or images or um swords or land? Or is there anything else I can do with this asset?
Gotcha. Awesome. So I'll first describe what a gaming NFT is, and then go about the different
Yes.
utilities. I think that's the best way to break it down. So in
Yes.
essence, just like physical art that you can own and show physical representation, you have digital assets called NFTs, which are essentially tokens on a ledger. So imagine going to a website and there's just a bunch of transactions where you can look at it in a very transparent, clear way. I see Metamona's, inventory. She has this cool sword. So
Mhm.
through NFTs, you can prove digital ownership, and through that, that interacts with different games or provides different utilities. So in some games, they go so far as to give additional perks or benefits. So imagine not just owning a cool skin, you own a certain map that people play on and you receive a portion of the earnings. So there's different ways to utilize these digital assets now that you have ownership of them through a digital ledger showing that you own it. You can lend them out, for people to use them. Whereas in Valorant or Fortnite, I couldn't send you my skins to borrow. But in Web3, you can go as so far as to say, hey, this person owns this. They can rent it out and be like, just like a landowner or a leaser, like in real life. So I mostly kind of explore games that are more focused on the social aspects, but there is Web3 games for
Mhm.
those that are interested in more of like these really true player owned economies where you go so far as to say, hey, look, I own the blacksmith, station. I own an inner tavern. So there's some games that are going so far into Web3 tech where they enable you to kind of even like take on a role into like the metaverse. So
Mhm.
that's again very open and broad, but I'm trying to kind of clear things up. Like if an example, I'm playing an MMORPG and you own the digital tavern, you can run it like a real tavern in some of these metaverses. So by having
Mhm.
that, you can rent it out and provide value and services that way. So yeah, Web3 tech just the technology that proves, hey, you own the lease to this, you own the deed to this tavern.
Mhm.
And then there's other cool things you can do. Like some projects, oh, you're a tavern, we're gonna give you, X amount of resources for owning that. Oh, you're a blacksmith, we're gonna give you 100 coal or 100 iron bars. So there's different ways people can utilize the tech. It's something that's really kind of on the back end, and it's really determined up to the developers how they want to give value. But
Mhm.
by owning these digital assets, you first prove it, and then through use of game utility and other benefits, you can also get some really cool perks out of it. So it just depends on the type of game and what they're wanting to do with their metaverse or their social experience, or if it's just like a traditional competitive shooter. Just having cool stuff. It's not always go so as far as you know you have to buy this to integrate it in another way. It could just be, oh, I just want to show it off and own it, or it can be you're you're like you have a role in a certain game that gives other perks and benefits that might have yield or rewards.
Yeah, I mean, it's very evident that true ownership is the value that Web3 gaming is bringing to the table here. But as you were talking, I also would say that, collectability, we're seeing a lot of collectability opportunities, and that's why a lot of people want to be first to collect or have a piece of, let's say, the Miller Lite bar that's opening in Decentraland, or some of I do a lot of coverage on wearables during Metaverse Fashion Week, and Coca-Cola might, drop merch that is one of 10, right? So true ownership that pertains to collectability, I think it's really huge here too, right?
That's a huge use case, just like how people want to collect like the Charizard, the Pokemon cards because they're collectible. You could also make digital collectibles, very cool. When you make something that's really cool and unique and just put a limited serialized number on it, it then like more people want it. It's just the idea
Yeah.
of collecting and really being able to amass, really cool. It's just like kind of natural human beings to want to have cool stuff, and whether it be this hoodie I have right now from Dead Drop, that was very limited in a collaboration with like an esports team. People might want to do that in the digital landscape, and people would recognize, oh wow, he has one of these hats. There's only 10 of them, whether it be physical or digital. You're able to now own that through Web3 tech, and it definitely provides a lot of value. It definitely might stick you out from the crowd or give you social brownie points if you would for having something cool or rare. People always say, oh wow, how did you get that? Tell me more about it. It's kind of like when you have something cool around your house or unique furniture, it's like kind of like a talking piece.
Oh, and phygitals, I feel like are such a unique concept. And I've had the same experience too. I was wearing a scarf the other day that was a Supreme scarf. It was like a collab with Louis Vuitton, and it was a phygital, right? And so the opportunity for brands to come into these digital environments, and this is why I am bullish in metaverse and gaming. I'm not a gamer, I don't claim to be one, but I'm very bullish on what is happening through gaming, right? This introduction of commerce where brands and advertisers are going to come into these digital environments because Gen Z is already here and sell and promote some unique collectibles where, hey, if you own the NFT of this scarf and your avatar in this game is wearing it, guess what? You also can have the physical version of this digital item. I think that's a game changer, and that is going to open a whole new realm for advertisers and commerce to come in, don't you think?
Oh, 100%. And like you said, the next generation of gamers, the ones playing Roblox, they're spending hundreds of dollars just because, oh, I want this cool unique fit or hat or pet. So it's already very apparent that much like people want to collect real items, whether they be limited edition cars or games or cars, why not have that and show it off to your friends, and the metaverse. So yeah, very much so. One thing that recently got me excited is much like how, like, when I grew up, I wasn't really big into comic collecting, but there's a couple instances where I found like a comic I really liked, and I'd go every week to buy the newest one. Just like that being a collectible, you can have that too in Web3. And there's different ways to make it really cool or exclusive. So, digital collectibles are becoming the new wave of collectible items. And just like when COVID blew up, everyone was wanting to collect things. Whether it be profile pictures or trading cards. People wanted to spend their money to really enjoy something. I was spending last night with my brother showing really cool Counter Strike source or Counter Strike Go guns. I was looking at all the cool skins, but oh, how would this look in the game? And this one's this little different by the pattern or whatever. So yeah, people just really want to show different ways to represent themselves and use them in experiences they love and enjoy. And a big part of that's gaming. People want to have people always they're gonna play their favorite games and they want to be able to either stream with their favorite assets or show them off to their friends. So 100%, I really am big on that. Phygitals are really interesting as well because imagine the other way around. I bought this really cool limited edition hat, and then with it, I got a metaverse item. So really cool stuff.
Nice. Nike is doing that a lot right now. And hey, there is a flexing element too, rightfully so, right? And I think that's what's really neat about it. But there are, I feel like the ownership, though, when you talk to Web2 gaming, their ownership of asset was always there. So when you look at these unique features of Web3 gaming, is it that true ownership that we're talking about? Is it the incorporating um, things like the smart contracts, the blockchain, the DAOs, and also this ability of how the game is built, which seems to be a collaboration between developers and players. Talk to us a little bit about some of the key features of Web3 gaming.
I'm gonna give a very unique example that will kind of show the value prop for someone that might not understand the blockchain. So Counter Strike Go enabled digital items in their game that were tradable a little over 10 years ago. And there was no crypto wallets with the way they went about it, because imagine how tricky it can be buying and selling items.
Mhm.
The issue at hand was, okay, what's the legal ramification? How do you tax these assets? What they ended up doing is enable third party sites to enable people to do the transactions and the trading and everything else. So like to be able to sell an item to someone else in Web 2, in that game, and then for them to sell it for real money, like how does the developer do that? It
Mm,
introduces a lot of technical issues. Imagine having to do wire transfers, imagine having to do PayPal, like it becomes complicated. So a
mhm,
lot of third party sites came in and enabled, crypto transactions where people can buy and sell items, without those hurdles. Whereas in Web3, I could provide Mona my wallet address, and she can immediately have access to that in a very decentralized way. So rather than having to go through banks and all these legal hurdles and KYC, having to sign up, provide your social security information, if you have a decentralized wallet, you can trade and sell assets freely and openly. And through the blockchain, saying, Mona owns this cool hat, I have this cool scarf, we want to trade. Everything's done in a very transparent, open way. So yeah,
mhm.
it comes down to really enabling those features, and it's not easy to do without that kind of technology. So that's where that comes in to provide those kind of opportunities.
Also, talk to us about this collaboration in development of Web3 gaming. In Web2, the community doesn't collaborate in building the game. In Web3, the community is very much part of that process. How does that work exactly without losing the authenticity and the direction that the studio has taken and needs to take for the business side of this game to be successful? How do they balance that? Do you know?
Yeah. So in gaming, it's very traditional for games to wait until they're done and then to show it off to the community and let them kind of do that. Whereas in Web3, through the use of, NFTs and cryptocurrencies, you can provide value for the time people put into the game. So, imagine, hey, we need a voice actor. Hey, we need someone to come up with lore. Those creators can be monetarily incentivized to help build a project with them. Hey, if you build out this cool, this cool asset, like there's imagine someone's building like different skins or something. We'll give you, a percentage of the yield through, smart contracts or, a token, those are some ways you can incentivize, people to build with you. Hey, for those who help, give us feedback on this game. We'll give you a unique NFT or collectible asset. And that's a way to kind of give value, and if people can sell that. Whereas in traditional gaming, oh well, if you try out the game, you'll get this cool skin, and you can't do anything with it. So you can't monetize that. But whereas in Web3, because you can provide something of value that's unique and special, people can level up their craft. Like I create content, and that's a way I can kind of monetize my skills to grow as a creator. So being able to leverage the blockchain as a way to unlock a lot of opportunities to help align incentives with different creators and builders. So it's very common for a lot of Web3 developers to have regular spaces where they're open and talking with their community to get feedback, or even finding ways to directly help monetize. So you could set it up to where, hey, every time someone buys this cool skin Spike's made, part of the proceeds is immediately sent to his crypto wallet. So I hope that kind of clears things up a bit. There's different ways you can do that. Whereas, like, imagine if I sold this cool hat, there's not an immediate way I can set up a bank transfer saying, hey, you got 10% of the sales for this. Whereas in the blockchain, you could have every time someone sells this hat Spike made, part of the proceeds goes to them. And it's just a layer people can kind of it's an unlock for different builders and game developers to kind of work. And whether you're a traditional profile picture project or anything else, you can do really cool things. You can host tournaments, you can host bounties. There's different ways to align incentives with community builders in your space. And I think that's the true power and unlock of Web3. Giving people an
Yeah.
opportunity to really partake and grow the project with you, and finding ways to really enable and to empower them.
Which I will say that could be blessing and a curse and a double-edged sword and a whole controversial topic that I'm just gonna brush on right now really graciously. Because one thing I love about it, and I'm in production, is the ability for what you just said, the users, the players, the fans to be part of your what we call pre-production process, right? So from the very beginning, you can bring people and give them a part or a portion or a piece of this pre-production process where you're building up to that film, game, documentary, whatever it may be, right? But here's the controversy. You already know where I'm going with this. We all know that a game, or actually, I thought a film usually takes 5 years, a minimum of 5 years to make, right? I didn't know that a game can take up to 8 years to build. That is a very long time. So if you are selling pieces of your pre-production, let's say via NFTs, in that phase, you have a very long way to go, hoping that everything is going to go smoothly and you're going to have this amazing game that everybody's going to say, guess what? I was a part of this when it first started at inception 8 years ago. Where we have people in our industry right now that are in that same position, right? And they get backlash sometimes saying, well, you still don't have a game, yet you're selling those pieces of your pre production. What are your thoughts on that? How do you balance that?
Yeah, so I think Fortnite or Valorant's a good example. Like when they were in playable states, it was closer to like the 4 or 5 year mark. When you're
Yeah.
building like the top AAA titles, they can take that long. Whereas like double
Mhm.
A, less refined, less features, it's take a bit less depending on the size of the team. But yeah, one thing that we've kind of moved away from the space and it being matured is that just a lot of the sales for NFTs or what you had mentioned had followed that of like the traditional crypto space, with NFTs. So the one
Mhm.
thing we've kind of grown tired of is people hyping up NFT mints and sales for items without having a playable game yet. What I think the community's kind of grown and mature to is why don't rather than having a hyped NFT sell, like just sell NFTs. We don't need to go through the whole let's all talk about how great this item is and use it to kind of raise money. Like if you build a great game and project, people are going to be buying admission or buying a chance to partake or do that kind of thing. So yeah, I think the space as a whole is kind of mature, especially with gaming, that we don't want to buy things and speculate on how fun the game is or what we can do with that. Like we'd rather just buy NFTs that we want, and be able to use them right away. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely kind of a trap stop. One of the first games I got involved with, it's 2 years later, and it's same with Kickstarter. You can invest into seeing a game be developed and not be able to have a chance to even play it. So like, a lot of people were excited about that game, which I will not mention. And we're still waiting 2 years later for even just a chance to play it. So it's very
Yeah.
frustrating. And I advise people to, you know, really determine, what their goals and ambitions are. It's very exciting to buy NFTs and to invest, but to do it, and to really be careful, have an
Yeah.
idea of what your own risk tolerance is. You're not to do anything you can't afford to lose. But I personally, I've kind of went away from investing in games like Axie Infinity, which was like my first exposure to Web3 gaming and like and NFT investing, to now just buying what I want. If it's some cool weapon I want to show off in a game and make content around, I'll buy that for that. And, you know, really kind of just focus on the content and gaming side of things. So it's there for those that want to do it, but I definitely have to advise people to, a very big disclaimer to say, hey, don't do anything you're not afraid to lose or afford to lose, and to really, not get too caught up in the hype and excitement because it's definitely there.
Yeah.
It might be
No,
better
it's
just to buy what you want when the game is ready and playable.
Yeah, and you definitely have to do your research to really understand who is behind the project, right? I think one of the key elements here that we see with reputable projects who don't have a game yet and are selling NFTs to raise money or whatever else the case may be, I think one of the key elements we see is transparency, right? They're very, very transparent in every step of their, I'll call it again, pre-production. And I think community and having those Web3 features like DAOs, where players and community is part of that process. How that helps this process is that then the community hopefully knows what the is doing and what the project is working on, and we see founders come up on the stage and say, hey, we're going to have a Discord AMA about where we are right now, what you should be expecting next. So I think that is a game changer over here, and that's really essential in this process, right?
So in terms of Web3 gaming, some will go to that point, many won't. Has there been
Mhm.
cases in Web 2 where outside of having a DAO, they have like monthly, polls to determine what the community base wants. So I don't think you need to go so far as to making a DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous group, to kind of automate or kind of figure out some of these solutions. I hear more people complain than not when you have people that aren't as invested, or they own a lot of the shares or votes and not really understand the economics or the business side of it. So I'm honestly, it's kind of a hot take for me to say I'm not really excited, or I haven't seen any good situations where DAOs have kind of alleviated that. But the most important thing I've seen be different is just finding projects and teams that are regularly having spaces and open dialogue. There's some projects you can't
Mhm.
even reach the founders, and that might have been the case when they were selling NFTs, but it's very important to really get to know the team and if they're open and transparent with the community, they'll talk about different changes. They shouldn't be, especially if you're selling NFTs and giving ownership of your pre-production and of the game you're building, and you want the community involved, you should carry that on. So it's very important to really dive deep and to figure out, who you're which teams you're investing in, and really seeing, how they're working with the community, because there's a lot of games that, you know it's bear market, we're just going to put our head down and kind of build and
Yeah,
just
yeah,
focus
no,
on
you
that, and they
can't
don't
do
talk
that.
to the community anymore, and
You can't
it's
do that.
very frustrating, and that's why I've honestly have kind of pushed away from that. I'm not currently really investing in any games. I am buying assets, but it's mostly just directed to content. It's like, what can I buy that I think would look cool and to be able to talk about, or there's other ways you can kind of make cool stuff.
By the way, speaking of our community, we have lots of shout outs here. Everybody loves you, Spike. We got George. George, we see you in the chat. We have people saying Spike Meta Mona collab. Lots of love for Spike. Hot take. All right, we see you. Spike takes. This
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
Spike
I see a lot
take.
of the Spike Squad up here in chat. A lot of amazing content, Greg. Gotta give a shout out to Paizen, Kobe Streams. I see you out
I
there,
see the
Web3
house. I
Gamer. I
see
see
you.
Ice over there, and Fly Kite Shay. Amazing, amazing content creators. Also doing a lot to help educate and provide value in the space.
Oh my gosh, especially, I mean, everyone in the chat right now, I have so much respect, so much love for the work that you guys do. This is not easy. Everyone is juggling multiple projects. we see you, we love you. And did you know that I had no idea Spike was at the award show? How did I miss Spike? It's all your fault.
I wasn't at the award show. I was at 3XP. That might be the confusion.
Okay, so I'm not crazy. Thank you. All right, I am not I was like, there's no way I missed you at the award show. Okay, now we know. Sorry, I see. But just wanted to tell the community we see you, we love you. Thank you for your support. Back to our Spike educating us and Professor Spike teaching us about Web3 gaming. So to really compare traditional games with Web3 games, I think it's fair to say so far, based on everything that you said, it's centralized versus decentralized is definitely a key feature here. True ownership and control of your assets is another great feature here. Digital currency payment model, we're going to talk about that. There are some issues there that we're still trying to mitigate. And then the way that the game is developed is really what stands out. And of course, blockchain and smart contracts, right? But here's another thing I want to bring up. Speaking of finance and digital currencies as one of the features in Web3 gaming, you do have to admit that GameFi has created this, what I like to call imbalance in Web3 gaming by mixing I can't say the word, intrinsic and extrinsic motivations for playing games. And that intrinsic motivation being, I play the game because it's fun, and the extrinsic motivation being, I play the game because I can earn, right? And that's why you were saying earlier, a lot of Web3 gaming companies started to shy away from using the term play to earn, wanting to focus more on building a compelling game with a compelling IP that people would want to virally share with their friends, right? Do you think that GameFi is a slippery slope for gaming?
Yeah, let me start off by making a clear distinction between what I consider gaming versus GameFi. So, unfortunately, these terms aren't really developed, but a lot of people refer to games without fully tokenized economies being called Web 2.5. So, imagine you can own NFTs, but there's no digital currency that is fully crypto. Like, imagine in Axie it's SLP. You have to buy said token or earn it, and you could be sold openly on a marketplace. Whereas there's other games that are Web 2.5 where you can't sell that token. It's something that's fully off chain. So there's a difference between. I personally got in through Axie. I was really excited and thought people can own value for their time. But we quickly learned, and as the space matured, that you know play to earn isn't sustainable. And I'd say
Mhm.
play to earn isn't sustainable because I associate it specifically with tokenomic systems that don't you know scale sustainably. So imagine token can go up in price if people buy it, but what is the motivation? So you said the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic. So when it comes to cryptocurrencies, most of it is extrinsic. People buy said token or NFT with the expectation to sell it for more later. So the value is extracted from the new person buying it and given to the people that are selling it. But that can only go on so long unless there's a utility for said token. Unless people are willing to lose money for something cool in a game, how are you going to make money? So the problem with play to earn, and again, I'm really specifically, there's games you can play and earn money, but play to earn specifically is the idea that we are building a game for you to earn money, but no one invests or plays games to earn money that don't make money. So that's where it's flawed.
Right,
A lot of games
right.
have shied away from play to earn, and a lot of games they don't need tokens. I've seen really amazing games introduce cryptocurrencies for people to buy and sell these tokens in their game and literally just killed experience. Because imagine, like, I'm playing this level, and if I lose, it's gonna hit my bank account. That's where
Mhm.
it's like it really becomes very extrinsic. People are playing for the opportunity to earn, and there's ways for people to earn and have no risk. I might buy all the assets and lend it to someone else, and they'll have a rev share. But it's to me, if a game is using the dollar sign emoji, you're talking about, oh man, our token or we're burning. Like, it's just very disingenuous to me, and I personally don't align with those games. I specifically want to work and support games that are really using the tech to empower gamers by giving them ownership of their assets. For me, I was playing a game called Crunker, and it's Web 2, and I spend $1,000 to buy these cool skins, and I can't ever sell them back. I might be able to trade them, which is why I was kind of into that. But you know, why shouldn't gamers, just like traditional games? Like I bought Mario on the GameCube or N64 or Switch. I should be able to get that game and sell it to my friend or lend it or borrow it. Why shouldn't I be able to do that with my in-game assets? Most commonly, we see this like in trading card games. I could buy Pokemon cards or Magic cards, and I could trade with my friends and I could sell them. Why can't I do that with my digital cards? So a lot of Web3 games, especially in sports or collectible cards, there's a value associated with buying that, and you want to have value for it. So that's where the unlock is.
I mean, right there, Matt says, "Poker is the only play to earn that works." Changed my mind, but that's true, though,
Yep.
right?
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Again,
Yeah.
with play to earn to work, for someone to earn money, it has to come from somewhere else. So You know, we can't all win at poker and then come out happy and talk about how this poker game's amazing. No, for someone to make money, someone has to lose money. So, yeah, I wholeheartedly agree that poker is definitely a model a lot of people are kind of looking at, especially with these kind of where it's a little bit of skill and then a little bit of risk, and that's something that's sustainable at scale, right? Like there's house odds, they're always going to come out with a 5% yield in most instances. It's something you can do, and people understand. Disclaimer. This is risky. Don't gamble anything you can't afford to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. So don't you think that's why it's even more important? Because, with my journalism background, I look at macro perspectives, right? Because I'm looking at mainstream audience who we're trying to lure to this side, right? So don't you think it is extremely crucial to allow for people to come in and play the game for free, at least on the front end?
100%. Like I remember 2 years ago when Axie was blowing up and everyone was, selling NFTs, and people were just more excited for buying expensive assets because of being able to rent them out for profit or whatever. It's like, as a content creator, I can't afford to buy all these items to play the game. Like I would just want to make content. So yeah, I think a lot more games are looking at it. The most recent example that I see not doing that is with Yuga Labs. Their
Mhm.
heavy metal game, you have to buy $1,000 robot to play their game, and it's kind of like the new wave of play to earn, if you would. People are speculating. They're buying this expensive asset. They score high on the social leaderboard. You might get something cool. So it's kind of a unique experience, but it's not something that's scalable over time. Like I can see play to earn working for a short time window, but again, like you can't you can't set up a system where people keep speculating and thinking they're going to come out ahead when there's going to be some winners and some losers.
Well, also, especially when crypto started with this notion of gambling, right? Here, Jorge says play to earn works, but it has to be the right audience. Exactly. It's gambling, casino audience. That's why poker works. But then again, do you blame people? We started with this theme, didn't we?
Yeah, for me, I for games that are essentially gambling, they're telling people to speculate or buy with a chance to win it big. I think it's very disingenuous. There's people that are building games that are essentially really risky or casino like, when at the end of the day they're going to make money because they're the house. But it's just, for me, I tend to really steer away from that kind of content. I don't really make gambling content or even play to earn content, because I feel like it's kind of disingenuous to say, oh, this is a fun game where you can earn money, when in the front it's, yeah, you'll earn money if you were early enough or you're skilled enough. So yeah, very important to distinguish Web 2.5 or traditional gaming games, that are empowered by blockchain technology, where it lets you own your assets or get value back for the time you invest, versus play to earn, where people are hoping to make it big, but in all honesty, a small percentage are going to come out ahead.
And as Payson says here, games need more creator programs. That means Spike needs to work more, harder, every day, all day.
Yep, that's for sure.
Um, but Spike, Web3 gaming is you and I and the audience, people in the community, we see it, we feel it, we're struggling. Web3 gaming is struggling. There's that GameFi imbalance that we just talked about. There's regulatory risks right now. There are hacks and blockchain structural vulnerabilities, if you will. And then there is, user adoption and mainstream acceptance because of the complexity of things like a wallet. And truly, there's just a lot to mitigate right now. We know we're still early. We know it's going to take some time to mitigate these frictions. Do you think in the meantime, then Web3 gaming companies should just focus on building a fast, casual, free to play experience that are, say, addictive, and then focus on a new business model that incorporates Web3 elements like NFTs, crypto, and whatnot?
Gotcha. So I'll distinguish a couple of things here. So first off, it's hard to reach an audience when you're really trying to talk about how amazing the tech is. So imagine, like, 15 years ago, you're like, oh wow, this dial-up internet, online game is the future. We're all gonna have online games. Like, people are like, okay, but the game's fun. Like, it's the same. Whether we're working with Steam marketplace wallets or Web3 decentralized wallets, it's not the tech that's exciting. A lot of people get caught up in that, because there's honestly two types of gamers in Web3, and games either pivot one way or the other. So I personally like to work in line with games that are really focused on the user experience, that are building things that are going to have lots of longevity. Like, they want to build these amazing franchises, amazing brands and IPs. So they are,
Mm.
if you're on that spectrum, imagine a Web 2 developer gets into Web 3, they're doing a first passion project. They're going to build the best game ever, and then they're going to figure out the blockchain next. Whereas we
Right.
see a lot of Web 3 games, and a lot of people are like, why are they only marketing to people on Twitter? Why are they only, and a lot of that their target audience is Web3 gamers. There's a lot of gamblers or speculative traders in the scene, and they're actually targeting that audience. So they'll make extravagant promises on their roadmap. They'll talk about, oh man, we're gonna do this to get a bunch of gamers in Web2, when in fact they're doing and saying everything they want to get that audience. So I personally
Yep.
align with the first half. I want to work with very passionate developers that are building the next coolest games, whether it be Web2 or Web3. And that's really where I align with. But there's a lot of, very discrepancies games, and it makes it hard, when you have games come out and they're talking about how, oh, everyone's gonna play and earn money, when in fact it's the developers going to come out and make a lot of money, and then the few skilled players or people that came in early do. So yeah, it you really got to focus on, you know that. But I align mostly with the first half. The second half, when you do see people only talk about things on Twitter or talk about how amazing their token is or everything else, it's generally a red flag. I don't support or promote gambling, and a lot of games are, that sense.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And it's only fair that we tell the audience that there are some amazing Web3 gaming projects out there that are fun, and really encompass and incorporate all those elements of Web3 that we're talking about in a balanced way. I'm pretty sure you can name a few and I can name a couple. So why don't we let people know that there are some good Web3 gaming out there? What's your favorite? You go first.
I've had a chance to play over 100 Web3 games. I've helped dozens of them come to market with
I'm
their
out.
marketing strategies.
Okay.
So
I'm
I'm
out.
representing today Dead Drop, very Web2 facing studio, supported by the one and only Dr. Disrespect. He's on their team. He's helping build their maps and talk about how to make that user experience. I'm a big hardcore shooter guy. I think you guys know the guys at EV.io. We have an amazing team called Shrapnel building something very similar to Dead Drop, but more focused on user generated content. So map makers, skin makers, stuff like that. Um, there's so many for me to count. I have a full list on Twitter, but I
Shrapnel, let's
mostly
pause on Shrapnel for a second. What about, because I love that game too. What about Shrapnel really stands out based on everything that we talked about? What is it that they're doing right in your opinion?
so Shrapnel is building an extraction shooter, but what's Web3 about it is they're
Yeah.
using the tech to monetary incentivize and encourage people to build user generated content. So with that being, it's like just like you said, the pre-production, they're giving people the tools, the access and the incentives to build their own maps. And if people play the maps, they'll share the rewards with them. Or you build a cool skin. They're even go so far as that, hey, if you build a tree or a trash can and like that's what your craft is, like that's your own create marketplace, they're giving people the tools and access to do that and to integrate it into the game. So that's a proper use of Web3 tech where you can
Mhm.
align, different creatives and builders to build a project with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am not a gamer or claim to be one, but when it comes to specific Web3 games, I am a huge Illuvium fan and investor, no financial advice, uh, because I truly believe that a good game will transform you into a different world, right? And I think Illuvium does a really fine job of just transporting you to their worlds, and I love the gameplay too. But for me also, I am very fascinated by virtual worlds that are being built via Web3 gaming, like Sandbox, Decentraland, Upland, Vivi. These are all some really incredible projects that are creating these virtual worlds where players can play, can build, can monetize their assets in ways that you and I were just talking about earlier. And so for me, when it comes to Web3 gaming, I'm very bullish on metaverse projects because I feel like that's the direction we're going. That's where Gen Z is, and we have to meet them there. And we talked about advertising. I wish we had more time to talk about advertising and commerce. I think gaming is going to be that lower barrier to entry, that lower hanging fruit where you can lure the mainstream audience into these environments to then give them something to fun to stay there as long as possible, right? And that's why I am very bullish on metaverse projects.
Yeah, especially with Gen Z, all the kids playing Roblox. I'm not sure how familiar with that, but it's essentially YouTube, but for gaming experiences. There's literally
Yeah.
millions of different custom games people have made. People. So in terms of Web 2, they probably have the market and the share there. The one thing I'd like to see more being done is creator empowerment. Working with different
Mm.
artists, creators to help build out these metaverses. I really am excited for metaverse projects that are focused on gaming experiences because you can build the Taj Mahal of metaverses, but if there isn't
And
something
you
for people,
hear crickets, and you hear crickets, right?
yeah, yeah. There's just
Yeah.
we see a lot of museums, if you would, in the metaverses, but the ones that are focused on gaming experiences that get people, a reason to kind of play with their fans and engage, um, those are the ones that got me the most excited. The one that comes to mind, I believe the name is Nifty Island. They're really focused on being very forward facing with having these cool games and giving people the chance to use interoperability to show off their favorite NFTs in the game. So they might have cool cats or other things. But the core essence of it, they're focusing on the games because you need to bring in the gamers, and then once everyone's playing and having fun, that's when they want to express themselves, and they'll buy cool assets or partake in those universes.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to create an environment where, first and foremost, people can have fun. And that's usually through gaming. And then people love to collect things. So, the whole collectible aspect of gaming and these metaverse environments, I think that's another way to lure people in. And then you can incentivize accordingly. And the key is to keep people in those environments for as long as you can. And who's going to build that ideal platform? I truly don't think it's just going to be one brand, one company, one studio. I think it's going to have to be a very collaborative effort. And I will go as far as saying I think the collaboration would have to be between Web 2 brands and companies and Web 3. So that's my opinion. But looking in the future, say 5 years from now, how do you see this space, especially Web 3 gaming and metaverse, evolving?
Yeah, so I see a lot of different verticals really popping off. Um, for more casual games, without a doubt, the mobile gaming market's gonna be huge. It's not very community forward or focused. So those very casual, simple games people are gonna play and be on board, and whether they know it or not. In terms of the more community focused games, like imagine your competitive esports or social experiences, um, they're going to evolve when a lot more mainstream content creators get on board. So an example of this, imagine you have a tactical shooter, something that's very mainstream. If you bring up NFTs to that audience, they're like, okay, that's a scam. I don't want anything to do about it. But the way we onboard those users is when we bring in more trusted creators. So I'm representing Dead Drop today. I was at an event where Dr. Disrespect, one of the largest streamers in the world, gaming streamers in the world, he was there with a lot of his gaming buddies. So I was in an
Mhm,
audience of 1,000 Web3 curious gamers, and when they
mhm.
saw their most beloved trusted creator playing the game and having fun, and everyone had a chance to play for this, they were onboarded. I saw so many people in
Of
the line
course.
getting ready to get their merch and stuff signed and saying, "Man, I don't know why I was fading this game. This is so cool." But like literally, when we start bringing in more content creators that are very Web 2 facing, that are have a lot of trust, that's the most important thing. So we have all these amazing
Absolutely.
games. It's just a matter of jumpstarting the creator ecosystem. I've been very big in my community Waypoint and now working with Own to really find ways to empower and align incentives with games. So, finding out ways to grow gamers and creators by empowering them different ways, either giving them more access, work closely with or sponsorships or other incentives to help them grow and scale their creative businesses, um, is to really focus on building more trust in a very Web 2 facing way. So, yeah, I think
Mhm.
if and when we have more large creators come in and very relatable and mutually beneficial ways, and once creators get to be seen, and just like yourself as a creative, once creators get seen more as growth partners, I think we'll start to see the space evolve because content is really what's going to lead, the next rush of
Yeah.
gamers in the scene. And as they have a more opportune ways to sustain and to scale themselves, we'll see more people get involved and want to join.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit it right on the nail. Trust is the number one element to success here. But, and that is represented through us creators, because if people trust us and they see us having fun and really using the brand the way that makes a difference in our daily lives, I think they will do the same too. I always say, if tomorrow we all wake up and Amazon and Google say, "Hey, everyone, we're going to use a wallet," guess what? The entire world is going to use a wallet because they trust those brands, right? And that's very important. But a key element also here after trust is a seamless onboarding process for us to be able to bring people to these platforms. on their end, they also have to make these onboarding processes a lot more seamless, because at the end of the day, when we go to our bank or when we go to Amazon or when we go to Google, we don't know what's happening on the back end. We just want to click and things for us to happen magically, right?
Yep.
And that's exactly how we want it in Web3 too. So I think there is still a lot of, friction, I should
Advancements
say.
and growth. Yep.
Exactly. That needs to happen for people to trust, and then for us creators to bring people this way, right?
It's definitely getting easier. I've had the chance to play other different games, and it could be so little as adding your birth date or something, and it'll have a huge detraction on how many people sign up. Like I've heard in some instances in Web two, if just by adding that extra question, people don't want to, they want the magic sauce to happen, they don't want to have to jump through all these hurdles, but just by like taking one of those away, you can see as much as like a 25 increase in signups. So yeah, it's very
Mhm.
much being the focus of a lot of Web3 games and projects, a lot of these tools are rebuilding where it's happening on the back end, through custodial wallets and other else. So the tech is advancing, the games are getting better. As we talked about earlier, you said it can take up to 7 years to build an amazing game. But yeah, just at 3xp, we were out there a few months ago, there was
Mhm.
close to, I think, 30 really great game projects. Everyone that I had hoped to be there were there. We had My Pet Hooligan, Dimensionals, which is a project I advised for, super excited about, Champions Ascension. You know, we saw
Yeah.
Stella Fantasy and so many other great games. So yeah, there's so much to be excited for in the space. And what I'm most excited about is how it's going to empower gamers and content creators. To me, that's what I'm most excited about. It's not buying NFT to speculate and earn something else. It's getting the value back you put into games and finding ways to really incentivize or to grow communities at scale. Like the core essence of Web3 is community, and when you can do things to grow and empower with them, that's where I think we'll all come out ahead.
Yeah, of course. I'll put one last comment on the screen here if I can find my mouse. Uh, fly kite stay say still sad I couldn't make it to 3xp. Face purple crying. Is that his emoji?
Oh
I
man.
didn't make it to
And
I didn't make it to the 3xp either. But yes, I am absolutely, I agree with you. I think putting power back in the hands of creators, but not just creators, also fans too. It's really the theme in Web3. And I'll close us with this. Everyone in this space is asking, how do we disrupt? How do we get mainstream adoption? How do we get people in here? And I think I heard the answer best by our good friend Andrew Wall of Alluvium, who said, you don't have to really reinvent the wheel, right? You choose a genre that's out there, you make the best version of that, and then use a new business model like tokens or NFTs that Web3 is offering and make a compelling game where people are so compelled with your intellectual property that are virally sharing it with their friends. And that is how a gaming paradigm shift has always happened. Do you agree with Andrew Wall?
100%, it comes down to building something either very unique
Hmm.
or something that provides a lot of user value. If people are going to play games, if they're going to play games that are fun, they're going to find what's most fun or what their friends are playing. So coming in and trying to disrupt by making something that's so cool and amazing is definitely the way to get ahead in this market.
Yes, indeed. Spike, I want to thank you so much for joining me on the show today. I appreciate your time and your insight. Thank you. Thank you so much. Where can people follow you and learn more about the amazing things that you do for our space?
Awesome. Thank you, Mona. A pleasure was all mine. You can find me on Twitter under Spike Reacts. I'm regularly putting hot takes, organizing community events and spaces, and finding ways to align incentives with the best games with content creators. So that's what I do in the community. I really help try to help games come to market and come up with effective strategies to actually find real gamers. So to find really cool ways to get the community involved and excited about all these amazing games coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I'm a student too. I love the hot takes. I'm in there listening, learning, taking notes, and that's the only way to do it in Web3. The theme here is each one teach one, and people like you are in those chat rooms. We're teaching, we're educating people because there is something important and substantial for the mainstream audience to really pay attention to. Don't ignore the technology. Yes, there's a lot of speculation, but in time that will resolve. And what's left is the technology that we're talking about here that you want to be a part of and you want to invest in. So, with that said, that's all the time, guys, we have for today. I really hope you all enjoyed the discussion as much as I did. I'll be back next week for more hot topics in the metaverse. Until then, I'm your host, Meta Mona. Thank you, Spike, and you guys stay positive.